What is up, YouTube? It's Hew Glass here with another episode of Me Blowing Glass, sponsored by Bud Light Seltzer Hard Soda. It tastes like a soda, so if you still have the taste buds of a child, drink this, but you'll get drunk like an adult. Alright, so today I'm going to be putting a Talon from Hew Glass inside of a pillow. We'll walk you through the whole process. Let's get started. First things first, got a nice blank of, I think it's 38 mil right here. Got to start shaping up the pillow that we're going to put the Talon inside of. Going to condense that one more time and then start shaping up the pillow. I want this tip to be a little bit wider, so widen that up and then we're going to get squishing. One way to widen it up is I'll use a deep amount of heat right here. In fast and smooth. Boom! Widens up perfectly evenly for me. Get it ready to start squishing into a pillow. I don't do a direct squish right here. I kind of roll it on the marver because obviously a pillow shouldn't be flat unless it's like the shittiest unfluffed pillow in the world. So I want to have a little bit of fluff still in there, so that's why I don't sit on one side completely, but I'll focus rolling on one side, then the opposite side, and start to get that rectangular shape that you all know and love a pillow to have. Now just give it a nice deep heat, let everything even out, and I'll start pulling out the corners. Instead of just straight adding on the corners, I like to pull them out because it gives the illusion of the pillow being almost fluffed from the inside instead of being corners added on to the outside. So now we're starting to get that shape. Do the same thing on the other side. Now we'll give it a little bit of puff. We really like a nice fluffy pillow in this house. As you can see, we got more of a classic pillow shape. This is how corners would sit. I'm gonna give it a little flare again. On an actual pillow that you use to sleep or whatever. But I like to do my own little cartoony style. So I'm gonna pull out the corners a little bit more and add on those rounded corners that are a little bit more playful and cartoonish, just because I think that looks cute and fun, and that's my style, baby. I'm just a cute, fun guy. Style king. Alright, so go have a little bit of clear onto this one, and then in just a moment we'll do the same thing on the other side. Some pieces, especially if I'm working with really thick prep, I'll literally pull all the glass out and I can make these corners just by pulling the glass off the piece too. Pretty good. We'll check out the other side here. It's a little bit thicker, so I'm going to pull out first. And then now we'll add on some glass. Pull that out and make sure it looks nice and symmetrical, or we'll take away some glass from one or add some glass to the other. So we got them both the same size. I'm gonna pull this one out just a tiny bit, add just the smallest amount of glass to it, and then we should be perfect. condensed that down. Now, pop a hole right here on the center of the top, switch axis, open up the bottom, because that's where the Talon is going in. Boom, now we got that pillow ready for the hole in the end. Put on my handy dandy blow tube. Gonna hit the rollers and try not to knock over my drink. I like to use hand torch on the end of the rollers here so I can get perfect center. Pop my hole, then I'll warm it up and use my jacks. That's not completely necessary, especially if you're making this just dependent. But say I was going to use a lathe or something and I was going to put this on a rig, that's when it's especially nice to have a perfectly centered hole on the end. Otherwise, I could go this way, pop the hole where it looks nicest, but it's a good tool to have depending on what you plan to do with certain pieces. Now I got a blow tube here, blow tube up to the other side, and we'll flare the bottom of this pillow open and get it ready for the Talon. Just want to flare that open enough that it doesn't get too condensed, because in just a moment what we're going to do actually is put a punty through here to hold the Talon perfectly centered while we melt it in, or connect it to the pillow I should say. Now I'll tear this bottom open here. Give that a nice good flare. Gotta make it big enough to fit a Talon. It's actually pretty skinny, so depending on what I'm putting inside, depends on how far I've flared open. That should be plenty for a Talon. Some other pieces, like when I put the reef inside or when I put other pillows inside, I gotta get it real open because it's gonna be a tight fit. This one's just gonna be tight top to bottom, but should not be too tight front to back. We'll pop this in the kiln, and then actually, this is another tool you'll wanna have made. As you can see, I've used it a few times, but it's a big punty with a fat saucer at the end. I use this to close big holes like that when I need it. So we'll pop both of these in the kiln so they can get hot, and we'll get ready to drop the Talon into our pillow. Alright, so I let that pillow soak for a minute in the kiln, took it out, let it cool down nice and evenly, and we have the Talon right here. This Talon we're gonna put inside of it. It's also cool to the touch. I just want to let them cool down so I don't have any mishaps when I'm putting it inside, because doing that when the pieces are at 900 or 1,000 degrees can get a little bit dicey. But this makes it easier to slide the Talon inside of the pillow. So what I'm gonna do is slide this Talon and the punty down the blow tube. This is how I keep it centered the whole way. And then instead of worrying about doing a little hot attachment right there, I'll put it together cold right here. So you can see the Talon is all inside of that pillow cold. And I'm actually gonna punty up to the top of the blow tube instead. And by doing this cold also, now if I need to adjust the Talon at all inside of the pillow, I can do that with my fingers. Or I could do it with tweezers if I need to get from both sides or whatever, but get it all nice and adjusted right there. Actually, heat this up a little bit and twist it a little bit to the left. There we go. Now it's perfectly centered inside of there. By letting it go cold, it's way easier to control where it's at, and then by having a punty all the way down the piece right there, I know that it's exactly where I want to weld it. I can close up this whole bottom and have pressure while I seal it to the pillow wall. pretty convenient little technique right there. And when I'm all done, break this off, slide the punty out, pop my holes for the pendant, and with that hole popped, I can slide in with the hand torch, polish up the punty mark. Everything looks beautiful and pretty, and everybody's like, how the hell did you get that Talon in through that little tiny hole in the top? And what I tell them, it's magic. But I guess you guys know it's not magic anymore, it's just glass mold. But it's pretty much magic, like playing with fire and going stuff, so, you know.
Yeah,
all right.
fire bending.
Fire bending. Now I'm gonna throw this in the kiln right now, let it get up to temperature, and then I'll use that big chunky piece of clear to close this up and start shaping the pillow. Okay, so here we have a nice warm Talon inside of a nice warm pillow. We got this big old chunker that's gonna close that hole for us. So start warming this bad boy up a little bit more to get it actually melty heat, not just 1,000 degrees, but like I think it's like 1,200 or 1,300 when it really starts melting. See, I'm getting the end of it really hot, and then I'll use this piece over here to be able to close it. With that, I don't have to worry about smashing it all together with a bunch of small punties or something, and I can get a nice clean tear off, and then I'll save this for future projects. That's why it's got those layers on the outside of it, because I keep using that same piece, so I don't have to make it a billion times and waste a bunch of glass. Now I'll start shaping up the bottom of the pillow. And that Talon right now isn't even connected. If I was doing something cylindrical, I would connect the Talon right now, but just because I'm doing something ovular, I want to get at least majority of the shape shaped out before I tag it, so I don't worry about putting any extra stress on the bridge right there. Although I do make the bottoms of them a little bit fluffier, so when you wear them as a pendant and they're hanging, it really is like the fluff of the pillow is gathering towards the bottom. I think that's a cool look. A little play on gravity. Well, I'm gonna give it a little spin on the rollers here and see if I can flare that out a little bit wider. And now we'll start pulling out the corners. Grab my handy dandy punty. This one's got some schmutz on the end of it, so I'll tear everything off real quick. Fresh punty, ready to pull some corners. Now is that part where we pull the corners off the pillow. So we'll start with one side right here. Big heat and some little heats. God, I love having a foot pedal. Just saves me that extra, I don't know, 5 seconds of heating. I can do 5 seconds of heating in 1 second when I just blast that bitch. I'll do the same thing on the other side. And I'll like to bounce back and forth from side to side sometimes when I'm doing this, not do all one side at once, because I'm trying to make it somewhat symmetrical. At least as symmetrical as a real pillow. But I don't want it to be a perfect rectangle either, because then it would not look like a real pillow, because that's not how real pillows be shaped. Give it a deep heat and a puff, and then we'll add on that little extra bit of glass to the corners to add that cartoon-like flair. That Royco signature flair, baby. Style points.
Style King.
Style King, that's what they call me back home. I'm just doing a little bit of symmetry first before I add on the extra bits. There we go. And now I'll add that on. And I'm literally going to do all the corners on this before I actually weld in the Talon. I could totally weld in the Talon right now, but I'm already working on this section, so I might as well. But I do like to pull out those, at least do the first pull on the corners before I melt in the Talon, just because with this piece it's less important, but some pieces I'm heating up a much larger section to do that, and I have a much larger attachment on the inside, and I don't want to be creating stress on where that connection will be unnecessarily. So this is just the technique that I've developed where I don't get no problems. Okay, give it a big flash all the way through right now. Lots of heat. And we'll focus on the connection now. Give it a big deep heat, and then I will switch over to the hand torch here so I can focus my heat right where the connection will be made. Condensing in the glass on the back. It's now touching. I don't know if you can see that little hole in the middle where it started touching. And I'm gonna keep melting that in. And the nice thing is, because it's bridged through the blow tube, I can absolutely rip this connection and get it super hot and weld it on super nicely. I'll do little puffs and sucks to even out the glass, get it to really stick there and not have a tiny sketchy weld. I'm also spinning the piece because obviously when you're heating up stuff, the glass will want to either run to one side or condense in one spot if you don't continue working it from different angles and moving it around. So by doing that, I'm keeping the piece from having an odd thick point or anything like that, which also will make it less strong. I'm focusing most of the heat directly on the weld, and I'm doing little circles around it so I can get it nice and clean. I want it a little bit bigger, so I'm flashed it a little bit more. That's what I'm looking for. You can see that nice smooth transition there. There's no sharp angles, and I got a little bit of extra thickness around where it melts in because there's a thick little bridge right there. It's looking great. So now I want to give it a deep heat, work out all the stress, get everything around it hot so that not too hot that shit gets floppy, but let the piece get a more even heat, because obviously uneven heat is what causes stress and cracks and breakage in pieces. So give everything a nice deep heat just to smooth it all out, and if there were going to be any problems, it should be cracking right about now, but we're looking real good with this one. Man, that thing came out great. Now I'll pop a hole on the bottom because I want to change axis so that I can clean up the top, take the punty out, put my pendant holes as well. Try that open real quick like with my jacks. Do that with a reamer too. Just make sure you don't jam up the piece you just put in, because it's still a little delicate. Although if you did your weld right, it should really be fine. Extra blow tube. Actually, before I do that, this is how I get the punty out. Sometimes I can just heat this up and knock it out. I'll give that a go first. Oh yeah, there we go. It wants to shock right there just because of where the connection was. Boom. Oh, don't let it drop on the ground, that's fall. And now I got the punty off of it. And then it had a nice clean punty there, so there's the slightest punty mark, no leftover glass. That's what you want. Now, let's get hot. It's hot still. All right, give that a second. Make sure I blow through it just in case there was any glass that chipped off when you break that punty. You want to get that out of the piece. And then we'll switch axes right now. Look at how nice and centered and perfect that is, and you're like, how the fuck did he get that so clean? The real tech is just putting that punty through the blow tube, baby. All right, now we got blow tube on the other side. There's the whole piece of flash. And we'll tear off the top blow tube. Leave a little bit extra there so I can clean it up with a punty because I feel more comfortable making it clean that way. See right here, obviously with the punting it wouldn't be possible. Even if I tried to finish the piece from the blow tube on the top, it just would have been a lot tougher of an area to clean up because of how I set it up for the putting something in from the bottom. Oh, a little hole there. And then having the pressure on the top will make it easier right now to clean up the top of the pillow. Nice deep heat, little puffs. Pretty pillow with a Talon inside. Now you may be thinking, there's still a punty mark inside there, Roy. Don't worry, we also got to make it a pendant still. So we'll give it a nice big flash. Keep that fucker hot. It's a clear on clear connection, so that's gonna be the smoothest to work always as well, which is nice. When you start doing this with color bridges and color pillows, it can get a little bit wild. It's a little more finicky. And now you can see those are the 2 points where I want the pendant holes to go through. Just had to reach over and grab my reamer from Hew Glass. Stole it because I broke like 3 of his reamers already.
Sucker.
Yeah, right. I break so many goddamn reamers. If I come to your shop, don't let me use your reamer because I will use it and I probably will break it. It's what I do, baby. They're just so easy to drop. They're round, they roll. The tips are all pointy and break. This one's still fresh right now. So I got the 2 holes opened. Now, of course, I just want to make them round. That's where that reamer comes in. And something that I like to do on my hollow pendants, it's on my discs, on literally like anything I do hollow, so I try to create a small path for the actual chain to hang through, so it's not too hard to feed the chain through, so it hangs nicely. So I'll take my tungsten right here, or graphite, whatever you got, and just create a little path. Go from both sides so it's nice and even. Just create a little path for the pendant to hang through. So now when somebody goes to feed their chain through, the pendant naturally just wants to fall into that path that I already created instead of going down into the piece and not coming out the other hole, you know? That was one problem I had with some of the first pillows and making smaller holes too. You couldn't put, it was hard to stick chains through it, and depending on how the weight distribution of whatever chain or rope you want to put through, could be pretty challenging. I'm gonna give it another big flash and we'll go in and clean up that punchy mark. Now that we have holes on top right here, we got the perfect spot to go in, clean up that punchy. If you're doing this on something where you're gonna put a neck on top, you gotta pop a hole to put the neck. So most of the time you'll have some way of getting in there to where that punchy mark was, or do it from the bottom if you're gonna have a hole in the bottom instead. I'm just heating it up from both sides so it comes out with a nice, even, clean polish right here. Punchy mark is gone, piece is looking beautiful. Now all we gotta do is tear off the bottom. I'm so bad at finding shit, but somehow everybody else who's in my shop always knows where the stuff I need is.
The second time I'm in the shop.
Yeah, dude, I swear to God though. When I moved, Hew Glass was the one who used to always find my stuff. Him and my buddy Toby would find all this shit. And I remember I moved and I texted Tim one time and I was like, yo, where's this thing in my shop? And he's like, I've never even been to your shop yet. I'm like, you always know where everything is in the shop though. Do you know where this is? And then I was like to Matt, Tim's passing the torch to you. You have to know where my stuff is now because I never know where anything is. And Matt's actually really good at it.
Shout out to Matt.
Yeah. And we got Lano over here who actually, second time in the shop, and he knows where my shit is, man. More than I do. So this isn't some fucking bullshit reindeers game. This is real life, guys. This is really what fucking happens.
This is real deal Holyfield hour.
Yeah, I lose everything and everybody else can find it easier than me. Tim literally would have a better guess than me from California for some reason. So I'm gonna tear off the little excess glass right here. You may be asking yourself, Roy, why the 10mm joint? Well, the 10mm joint is to be used as a Sophie. Even though I have a nice metal Sophie, I just love how 10mm joints work for this. So heating this up, and I want the bottom to be nice and rounded out, not be all chunky after being melted in. And the nice thing about 10mm joints is that they fit right in dependent holes. So I can puff out the bottom as if I had a blow tube on the top without needing to have the blow tube actually there. I just put it there when I need it. And I could blow even harder and like literally blow out a big bubble on there, but I don't want to, obviously it's not what I need for this piece, so I'm not overdoing it, but it's crazy how much you can do with that. Having a nice little Sophie is a great tech for finishing up these pendants.
You might be asking yourself, Roy, you literally have a tool made for that. It's called a Sophietta, but why aren't you using that? It's because it is made for it, but it might not fit the specific pendant holes he has. So you're just using this because that's what he gets the best airflow from.
I get better airflow, but I'll show you actually why. I can find it. So, here it is. This Sophie actually fits everything great. I'm not gonna lie, this thing's fire. I'll show you guys how this one works. I'm it up a little bit just so it's not shocking the glass. It's great, but as you can see, the diameter of that versus the diameter of the hole in 10mm, it's actually bigger on the 10mm than the tip of that. So I get more airflow through it for these particular pieces. But depending on what I'm working on, especially if there's a bigger hole, this is great to use. And the real reason why I still will use this over the 10mm joints on other stuff, or depending on like sometimes pendants, it's because I can put my blow hose right on here. So I don't actually have to, I can blow with the hose around my neck and still do that. But it's just quicker and easier with the 10mm on a piece like this because I get that little bit of extra airflow. It doesn't mean too much, but saves me a couple puffs is all. And works great. Boom, knock off the punchy. Time to clean this bitch up. I got it on my smallest tweezers, which is really fun when I need to put it in the kiln. Bang, bang, clean that bitch up. And there is our beautiful pendant. We'll get some nice cool down shots in the sun tomorrow. But right now, go like this. The poor man's tongs.
Oh yeah.
Cover
Make
your
the walk the victory.
Yeah. You gotta cover your hand up with the jacket so you don't burn the shit out of your hand reaching in the kiln. Drop it off.
Oh, look at that buddy right there.
Looking good.
Roy 1, Glass God 0.
Let's go. Hey, wait, it's not over yet. It's still gotta go through the kiln cycle.
Oh shit.
Don't jinx me. And here it is, the finished piece. Stay comfy, y'all.